Hello and welcome to the Bronco Exchange. I'm your host, Dr. Shanessa Fenner, and today I have a very special guest. He is Spring Lake's Police Chief, Troy McDuffie. Welcome, Troy.
Hello, Dr. Fenner.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon.
Okay, I'd like to first say welcome back, and of course we'll talk more about the welcome back later. But first, tell us a little bit about yourself, Mr. McDuffie.
Well, again, my name's Troy McDuffie, and I'm currently the interim police chief for the Spring Lake Police Department.
Okay.
And let me just give you a little bit of background, the story behind this interim role.
Sure.
I've served in law enforcement since 1982. This is my 32nd year. However, I retired in January of 2017, and after serving 31 years, I was retired for 8 months. During that time, Spring Lake hired a new police chief. However, he has since moved on, and Spring Lake contacted me about my willingness to come back and serve in the interim role until they hire a new police chief, or until perhaps we come to agreement for me to maybe unretire and stay a few years.
Okay.
So that's where I find myself in the current position again as Spring Lake's police chief.
Okay. Tell me about your family. You have any children?
I have 3 children. They're all adult, a son and 2 daughters, and I have 3 grandchildren, which are, that's my heart, my grandkids.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, Troy, you had an 8-month retirement, which of course is kind of short.
It is.
But talk to me a little bit about what did you do during those 8 months?
Well, Dr. Fenner, you know, law enforcement is it's a very strenuous, career. And after 31 years, I felt, it was that time. However, our plans are not always the Lord's plans. Mm-hmm. So I truly believe that it's His will why I returned to Spring Lake. Mm-hmm. But that 8-month break, it was something I feel like I probably needed. It just gave me that peace of mind, time to spend a little bit more time with my grandkids, families, and just enjoy life. Without the the hustle and bustle of running a police department and protecting the community, which is not something that I shied away from. It's all part of the job, but it was certainly a burden that's lifted off your shoulder when you go into that retirement career part of it.
Okay, so what made you say yes to coming back versus no? Because you were enjoying your grandkids, being able to relax and take long naps and do whatever Troy wanted to do. So what made you say yes, I'll come back for a little while?
Well, that's a good question, and I'll try to sum it up in just some short, brief words. Law enforcement is something that's it's a passion that's in your heart. And Spring Lake, the community of Spring Lake, when I took over the department back in 2009, the department in the community had really gone through some tough times. And just moving forward, not dwelling, on the past. It took a lot of hard work. Me, just as the leader of that police department, to build the Spring Lake department back to what it was when I retired. And when the former chief moved on, I felt there was some instability left behind, and in my heart, I always want what's best for the community. I always want what's best, for the department. And I felt that I was the person to come back and reestablish some things and stabilize things. It really wasn't a difficult choice for me.
Okay. Now, Chief, let's talk about the term community policing. What is that, community policing?
Community policing is really just, it's something that's I consider it just basic policing. It's no more than the community and their police department working together. I feel some of the problems of the past, which led to the events that happened prior to 2009, was the fact that there was a disconnect with the police department and with the community. And of course we see that, even to this day, where there's a disconnect. But basically it's just your police department and your community working together, because the police department alone cannot secure and police the community. They need the help of the community. They need those eyes and those ears. But the community has to have, trust in that department. And in order to build that trust, it takes both entities working together, your police and the community.
How do you build trust with your community? Because of course we look at TV and we hear all these tragic things. We hear of someone getting pulled over, and then the next thing we know, they're in the morgue.
Right.
So how do you all form that relationship with the community so that the person that's arrested, they feel safe and don't feel like that they're going to end up in the morgue that evening?
Good question. And this is just my opinion and my views. My views and my opinion, it starts with the leadership. It starts at the top. As the leader of the Spring Lake Police Department, I feel like I set the tone as to how my officers are going to go out into the community and police the community and the relationships that they establish. So I just feel like it's very paramount that the officers, you understand that they are a representation of the leadership of the leader of the department. So just setting, that tone, establishing good policies, establishing, policies and procedures, and holding folks accountable, holding the officers accountable, let them go out, which is what I practice, is what I allow them to go out and do your jobs, but do it within the letter of the law, do it within town policies, department policies and procedures, and most of all, do their jobs professionally and treat folks with dignity and respect.
Now, are there certain kinds of training, Troy, that the officers have to have in response to being cognizant of who they pull over, whether it's a certain race, a certain ethnicity? What kinds of training do the police officers have to make sure that they're not targeting certain groups at all?
Well, there's diversity training. That's a part of, typically it's part of your yearly mandated training, from the states. But you could take that, a step further. One of the things, we're a small department, but one of the things that that I believe in, I started my career with the Fayetteville Police Department, and I just sort of going back to that, the Fayetteville Police Department was a great training agency, and I sort of took that along with me. And training is one of the things that we believe on. It's a little bit more difficult for smaller departments because of staffing concerns, but informal training, any type of classes that relates to diversity training, first line supervisors, schools, any training that relates to their interaction with the public, I think goes a long way in helping build that relationship, with the citizens in the community.
Now, do you have conversations with your police officers about, their awareness of certain things and about, because there's so much going on right now in society, all the confusion, all the hatred, and all of the chaos, So do you have those crucial conversations with them about that, because things are really heightened right now?
Right. When possible. Again, sometimes it's a little difficult, bringing the entire department together. So what I try to do is, talk with these officers, even sometimes one-on-one, but also maybe in groups during shifts. But I really depend on my staff, from top all the way down. Your watch commanders, your supervisors, patrol supervisors, to really get the message across to the officers that they supervise. Because there's more interaction and more contact with the supervisors versus the patrol officers because of the different shifts that they work.
Okay. From my understanding, Troy, I was told that it's been very hard to recruit police officers, because of the state of America right now, and it's very hard. I guess everyone, has that apprehension of not wanting to be one because of, the news and the things that take place, transpire. So what is the recruitment process for police officers?
Well, to answer the first part of the question, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Policing has changed. It has certainly changed when I started my career back in 1986. But policing is still, it's just a rewarding profession. And again, it takes a person that has a certain level of passion in order to go out and protect and serve. But just moving on to the question that you asked, for your larger departments, basically they apply to the departments. They go through a process in which, say like a Fayetteville or Cumberland County Police Department, their process is is probably a little bit more strenuous because you're competing against so many applicants, and then they hire and they pretty much run their own academies. Smaller departments, we depend on the community colleges, and all of our candidates, they have to have their BLET certification, basic law enforcement training certification, before they are eligible to apply. And that's because we're not in a position to the training, and don't quote me on this, it's several months, 3 or 4 months, and we're just not in a position to hire an individual and wait until he complete that basic law enforcement class. So typically an applicant, they will apply to go to the class through FTCC. Take for example, we have a very good working relationship with them, and of course it's in Spring Lake, their BLET class. So they'll apply. If they're accepted, it requires a sponsorship from a local law enforcement agency, and which is what we do. We sponsor a lot of applicants. Once they complete their course, they'll take the state exam. They'll obtain their basic law enforcement certification. Then they will apply through a small department such as myself, or maybe a Hope Mills and some of the smaller agencies.
Okay, and then after that, what happens?
Well, the process, of course, it's, our standards are not any different than, say, the larger agencies. I mean, they will apply. We have to put them through a process which consists of firearms qualification, backgrounds check, psychological exam. Once we finish that entire process, then we have to submit all this paperwork to Training and Standards in Raleigh, North Carolina. Training and Standards will review all of the process, all of the, they will review all the documents, they will review all the requirements, they will ensure that all the requirements have met, and then Training and Standards will determine if the candidate will be issued his basic law enforcement, his general law enforcement certification. Once that's complete, then we have the green light to go ahead and hire the candidate as a police officer. We'll swear him in. He'll start with the department. Then the candidate will go through, with Spring Lake, I would say we go through a 14-week field training program. So a difference with different agencies. Fayetteville field training program may be a little bit longer, Cumberland counties, but typically, it's going to be 14 weeks or more.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much, Mr. McDuffie, for part one of our conversation.
Welcome.
You've been listening to the Bronco Exchange. I'm your host, Dr. Shanessa Fenner. Have a good one.
Hypnotized, familiar stranger,